In 1973, she was crowned Miss Black Teenage New York. At 19, she was named one of the top 10 college women in America by Glamour magazine. But it was as Deena Jones in the original Broadway production of Dreamgirls that she finally arrived. Hollywood was next. On TV, she joined the cast of It's a Living and Designing Women. And on the big screen, she appeared in The Mighty Quinn and The Flintstones. But most would probably recognize her from her 5-year stint as Brandy's stepmom on the hit TV show Moesha. Outside of showbiz, she's married to Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes and works tirelessly in the fight against HIV and AIDS. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on Interviews, our conversation with Tony nominee Sheryl Lee Ralph. When did you know this was the life you wanted?
Oh, I don't know if I ever really knew it, but my mother says she knew it when I was born, because when I was born, they say I came out laughing, and the doctor said, well, this is a live one, so maybe they knew right off. But I actually thought I was going to be a doctor or a lawyer, because I come from that West Indian background, with a mother that said, be a doctor, be a lawyer, and if you cannot do that, then marry one. So I thought that was going to be the life for me.
I hear there was a little trouble with cadavers for you, though.
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely the cadavers. There I was, a freshman at Rutgers University, organic chemistry, and they sat before me a hare, H-A-R-E, and gave me my scalpel in the, its beautiful little container. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no. I gave that scalpel back to that teacher, and I said, this is the first and last you will ever see of me. And quite literally, Rutgers is a huge campus. So we have a bus system from campus to campus. So I got on the bus, and I ended up over at Douglas, which is the female college campus. I was in the first class of women on the Rutgers campus, so I know that I was confused because I got off at Douglas, and I'm walking around trying to figure out, how am I going to tell my mother I'm not going to be a doctor, and at the end of the street, there was a little theater with a sign on it that said, auditions. And I had been Miss Black Teenage America, first runner-up, so I had a song and I had a monologue. I went in, I auditioned, and I got the role. And it caused quite an upset because I was a freshman. And I was a young freshman, I was 16. And it was unheard of for a freshman to land the lead role. But I landed it, and there was Dr. John Bettenbender. Very rough man, like that, with a beard, you talk like that. And you are, and I said, I'm Sheryl Lee Ralph. Oh, Miss Ralph, yes. And he had his pipe and everything, And anyway, we did that show, and I remember him having such faith in me, in my ability to succeed. And I remember at the end of that run, he was so proud to say, well, Miss Ralph, you're going to be participating in the American College Theater Festival. And I had been chosen to compete in the Irene Ryan Scholarship Award, for the Irene Ryan Scholarship Award as part of the American College Theater Festival. And it was the first time that it was happening for Rutgers, so he was very proud. And I ended up winning. So he was extremely proud of me. And I remember my grandmother had given me a gift, because she was proud of me just being there. And my whole family came to Washington, D.C., and they sat there, and they were going to announce the winners. And I was just happy being there. So I wasn't expecting that they were going to announce my name. And I opened up her gift, and they said, Sheryl Lee Ralph. And I threw the gift up, and I was showered by these colored panties.
So was there any training then before that, or was it just luck and talent? It
was really, I believe, community. I'm definitely one of those kids that participated in theater in high school. The little theater groups are in the community. Girl Scouts, the Girls Club, the YWCA, all of the recreation club, anything that had to do with speaking, anything that had to do with acting, singing, just performing, dance club, Miss Johnson was my tap teacher, my dad was the minister of music at church. So I was always involved in the arts because I was an artistic child, but I thought that I was going to be a doctor or a lawyer because I come from that family. You're supposed to be important. You're supposed to make people proud.
Did your family ever look down on going that route as opposed to the lawyer-doctor route?
Listen, when I walked out of my organic chemistry, I realized I wasn't going to be a doctor. But when I sat through constitutional law, and the woman was a very severe-looking teacher. I can see her to this day with her hair pulled back in the bun, with those glasses, with that buttoned-up shirt and that dark little button-up cardigan, And her voice, she droned on, and it sounded like nails going down a chalkboard. And I was just like, I've got to get out of here. And I remember thinking, what am I going to tell my mother? I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not going to be a lawyer. And I told her that I just wasn't going to do this. I was pursuing theater arts. I was going to be an actress. And my mother said, an actress? You are going to spend your life being a fake and a phony, hanging around all sorts of strange people. You are not there on scholarship. We have worked very hard. This is all of our money, and you are going to waste it. And I realized she was just going to have to be upset.
Yeah.
But I got a phone call from my dad who said, you know what? It's your life. You're going to have to live it. And at the end of it, you're going to have to figure out how well you've lived it or not. So if you don't want to be a doctor, you don't want to be a lawyer, then you need to figure out what you need to do for Sheryl.
What did you learn from that toward parenting today?
It's been the greatest gift because as a parent, I have 2 children, a son and a daughter. My son is in school in Texas, and I realized that I had to give my children the same gift that my father gave me, and that was the ability to pursue my dream. He gave me the best guidance he could give me, but the gift was allowing me to pursue my dream.
Yeah.
So I try very often to do the same thing for my children. Every now and then I want them to say, hey, do what I say do, please. Listen to your mother. But I really try to do exactly what my father did.
Because it sounds good saying it, but I'm sure
it's hard.
It's challenging.
It's very challenging. It's like, you want to say to your kids, do it now. It's got to be done now. I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to be a helicopter flying over them. But you got to pay attention. Especially there's a difference between daughters and sons, I think. And I think as a mother, you have to pay more attention to what your son is doing. Because sometimes sons have a habit of laying back and taking their time, where your daughters, they want to get into it. They want to make it happen. They're da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Whereas sons are like, Mom, I'll get to it. It's cool. I'm cool. You're cool. We'll be fine. And I'm like, no, we won't. The deadline is in 2 weeks. So,
any trouble with career and raising the kids?
No. My children have been a great asset to me. I cannot imagine my life without my children. I have so many peers that didn't have their children. And sometimes I see the way they look at my children. And I know for me, I did the absolute right thing. The only thing I didn't do was have 2 more. That was the only thing. I have 2 children. If I don't live by regrets, but if I were to ever say regret, the regret would be that I don't have more children. I just have the 2. But I'm happy with the 2.
Take me then back. Okay, so you go to Hollywood.
Yes.
And looking at your list of credits, what I think is really wonderful is the number of wonderful programs you got to be part of as you work through it. What's always fascinated me is you're going into these families, and you're going to come in either for a short term or a little longer. How do you make sure you get accepted into that family?
In terms of what? Like how?
If you go on to Good Times, there's a cast that's been there.
That's right.
You come in as this young new actress. How do you make it work? Because when we watch on screen, it's like a relationship is there. So how does that happen?
It was a great relationship for me right away. What's his name? Who played Mr. Jefferson? Sherman Hemsley. Right away was warm and welcoming to me. I played his secretary, so my scene was basically with him. My interaction was basically just with him. And it was such a great relationship that we've been working on a pilot out of T.D. Jake's production company, which is about a church family. And Sherman plays my father-in-law. So it's been a great relationship. When I did Designing Women, he played my dad. So along the way, we have worked together, and it has always been great. Always. Doing that show, I had a wonderful relationship with Lenny Kravitz's mother. Roxy Roker, what a wonderful woman Roxy Roker was. Such a great family, and she was so proud of Lenny. And I'll never forget, she brought Lenny to the set one day, and she said, "Oh, Sheryl, this is my son, Lenny." And he was like, and Lenny, you can't imagine this, but his little afro was, he had the little flat top shaved on the sides there with his Argyle sweater way before his time. And he was like, "Miss Ralph, when are you going to let me write a song for you, Miss Ralph? I can write a song for you." And it was just like, wow, she was so right. My son, Lenny Kravitz.
Which, when you say write a song for you, one thing that bothers me, only one album in your career.
You know what? I was never, and I would say still to this day, whenever I sing, I'm acting. And I'm always bringing somebody else to the stage. It's never Sheryl Lee. Sometimes you see me, I am Shirley Bassey. Sometimes you see me, I'm Barbra Streisand. Sometimes you see me, maybe a little bit of Diana and a memory of Josephine Baker, but I'm never Sheryl Lee. I'm always acting. It always takes such effort for me to come to the stage and perform. I don't know why that is, but that's just the case. So I was never really, into, singing per se. And when I think about it, I really think it stems from Dreamgirls. Mm-hmm. Dreamgirls, for me, as an actor, was an acting job. To play a character who was a star by her personality, by her vibrancy. She wasn't the greatest singer. And people always said during Dreamgirls, I was a weak singer in comparison to Jennifer Holliday. I was acting. Right. I was acting, so it was always a thing that people always had a preconception of Sheryl Lee, which really got stuck in my head because they would say weak singer in comparison to Jennifer. And it was just like, no, she sings the way she sings. I sing the way I sing. So I'd have to leave the show in order to perform as a singer. Then when I would perform, people would say, "But you didn't sound like that on stage," because I was acting.
Right.
And then...
Because the whole point is if the Deena Jones character is a amazing singer, then the tension isn't there in the plot. Exactly.
So when the movie came out and both of them were incredible singers, it's like you're missing the whole point of the dynamic that goes between Deena and Effie. Deena is a great personality, a great beauty. Effie is not the great beauty. She is not the great personality, but she is an incredible talent. It is a period piece. Something that people never got was that there was a time in recording where artists, if they couldn't be seen on the cover of the album, they could only be heard. And there was a change in the 60s that you had to have these great artists that would make a cover because it was the cover of the album that was going to sell the album. So if you didn't have a look that would sell, you weren't getting a shot. Yeah. So when there's a line that says, "Deena's always been beautiful, but I've got the talent." What he said was, "I don't need your talent to sell albums." Whew. Very poignant.
And you folks were more involved with the writing of that than a lot of people realize.
Much more.
It was workshopped into the show that we know as Dreamgirls.
It was workshopped for years. It was workshopped at times out of improv. There were certain things that we said and developed that were put into the making of the show. So when the film came out and we were basically locked out, that is why we were so hurt. Because we really were part of the creation of Dreamgirls.
Yeah.
You know, the cast of Chorus Line was on the same track. They did the exact same thing we did. They had a class action lawsuit that they won. Had we done the same thing, we would probably have won as well, because we were that invested in the development and the creation of Dreamgirls.
Yeah. And I don't want to stay on Dreamgirls too long, but one more thing.
Yes.
Everyone, when I mentioned to my mom, we were doing this interview, and she said, oh, she played the Diana Ross character. Set the record straight on the Supremes versus the Dreams.
I can tell you, quite honestly, Tom Ian, who was the original visionary behind Dreamgirls, who does not get the credit that he deserves, it was all his idea, was very, very clear in saying to me, you cannot mimic or play Diana Ross because they will sue us. Hence, when the movie came out and they played and mimicked Diana Ross, Berry Gordy, let it be known, I will sue you. And, you know, there were all sorts of apologies that were made within the, you know, the rags throughout Hollywood saying, we are not trying to insinuate da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Because, like Tom Ian said in the beginning, let people think what they want to think, but we cannot get sued.
Okay, Dreamgirls, phenomenal success.
Ah.
When it ends,
Yes.
what went through your mind?
It didn't end for me. I left the show. And I remember standing there. It was like my 1,247th performance, which is like eternity for a musical. And I remember standing there saying to the cast that this is my last performance. And I unceremoniously left and went to Los Angeles, and I auditioned for a role on a series called V. And V, well, you know what it's about, because it's been redone now. It's back. And I played this gun-toting sergeant that was going to battle these aliens, you know, and I was a double-barrel diva. And I cut my hair off and dyed it red, and it was quite a departure from Deena Jones, you know. So I did that, and that was it, and I ended up staying.
Was it the reception you expected after the phenomenal success of a Dreamgirls?
You know,
and could you have repeated the phenomenal success of a Dreamgirls?
You know something? I don't know. But for me, I entered into Hollywood at a time that they were confused. And over, I would hear, beautiful, talented, black girl, what do we do with her? What do we do with you? I'll never forget the casting agent that looked at me and said, everybody knows how talented you are. You are beautiful. But what do we do with the black girl? And he said that to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And it was very difficult. It was hard. But when I look back and knowing that I couldn't take no for an answer, that I always had to recreate myself. Lena Horne. Lena Horne's one-woman show is running at the same time as ours. She has a different schedule. So Sunday after our show, we're able to catch an evening performance of hers. Afterwards, I go backstage to meet her. And she says, oh, Sheryl Lee Ralph, what does Hollywood do with the beautiful black girl? And I said, I don't know. And she said, and neither do they. And that's why she learns to recreate herself over and over again. I understood what that meant. So here it is that Dreamgirls this year will celebrate 30 years, and I'm still here. I know it's hard to believe since I'm only 31.
Now, there's so much more career I want to hit some, but there's some other stuff I want to hit so quickly. Moesha, for those that are watching, because there's a generation out there that knows nothing of what we're talking about now, and only knows you from Moesha.
That's right. And I tell you, for a lot of people, I'll always be somebody's dream girl, and for somebody else, I'll always be Moesha Mama. Not Moesha's mother, Moesha Mama. Oh, absolutely. And there's some people out there, they just love Dee. They just love that character. I've got a lot of kids out there that say that I'm their auntie in their head.
Yeah. The other stuff to take you away from the showbiz life, which is such a big part of you, but there's another part that's very close to you, and it's all the work you do with HIV and AIDS.
Which has to do everything to do with my time, once again, on Broadway, that original company of Dreamgirls. I always tell people it was the best and the worst of all times. And the worst was that I stood witness to such an ugly time when men got sick and died. They got sick and they died. There was no dying process. They got sick and they died. And there was an awful silence that fell over a lot of their suffering as they died. And I remember a time when people found it easy to turn their backs on their friends, act like they hadn't known them, just erase them from their minds. And I always said, we can do better than this. And I'm going to do better for my friends. And it was very difficult because I'm here to tell you they shoot messengers. And I remember when I started, speaking up and doing things, people would tell me to shut up. Don't talk about that. It's not your fight. Why do you care about those people? And I could never figure out who those people were because all I could see were my friends, people you care about. And I personally remember when you would go to the hospital. I remember this. And you would go visit your friends. And I'm telling you, some of them didn't get a hospital bed. Some of them got a gurney, and they were pushed out in the hallway. Some of them had those signs on their bed, and it said, "Do not touch." I remember this. So now this year, Dreamgirls turns 30, AIDS turns 30. I remember that June when we were working. And you got that flash with these 5 guys that had died in San Francisco, and folks didn't know what, and folks want to keep on dancing like something wasn't happening. Alarms went off in my head. And immediately, what I saw that first and second year wasn't just gay white men. I saw a whole lot of black men, and I saw 1 or 2 women. So it was never about those people, because I saw a whole lot of folks. And I always felt that we could do better. Look, anytime somebody can help you with your wig, weave, weft, and wardrobe problem, they deserve to be remembered. So maybe I remember that. I remember Tom Ian. And I remember Tom had such a great love for me. And Tom gave me the gift of Deena and Dreamgirls. I remember so many artists that, we've just missed out on a whole generation of great talent. Michael Peters. People forget Michael Peters created all of that early choreography for Michael Jackson. Thriller and all Dreamgirls, that was all Michael Peters. Michael Bennett, my God, he was a difficult man. But, an incredible talent, so many of them that we just lost. And, I said, what can I do to make people remember this time? So I created Diva. And I said, but Diva's going to be in a good sense. We're going to be divinely inspired and very AIDS aware. We're going to be divas. We're going to be divinely inspired, victoriously anointed singers. And we're going to raise awareness and fight the good fight against AIDS. And so I remember those women that came on board and at that first year and said, I'm going to help you with this, because we had all lost somebody. We all understood what this fight was. And so this year it'll be our 21st year, and we will be the longest consecutive running musical AIDS fundraiser in the country. We've never missed a year, and the women continue to come out every year to raise their voices in song and commitment against HIV.
In the very
and
brief
AIDS.
amount of time we have left, does it still shock you that you're still having to fight the fight against AIDS and HIV?
God, yes. If someone had told me 21 years ago that we'd still be doing divas, I would have said, no, we'll have a cure, we'll have a vaccine. It'll be divas simply singing for Ebola. You know, something else. It won't be for HIV/AIDS. But what I see going on within the black community, the Hispanic community, and I feel that there's another curve that's going to be met soon, and that's young people. And people have got to wake up to this disease, because I, as a mother, I'm not burying my children. So I want people to pay attention to their children and what's going on. And that's why I continue to fight the good fight against AIDS.
They're telling me 10 seconds left.
Yes.
Quickly, testing.
Testing. Please visit testtogether.org. It's important that people know their status. Go to the website, put in your zip code. Places will come up across the country where you can go and get tested for free. Testtogether.org. Then you can meet my husband on the site, too.
Okay, we didn't even get to talk about him.
Oh, he's
we are out of
wonderful.
time. Thank you so much for being a dream girl on so many different levels.
Thank you.
A pleasure. Sheryl Lee Ralph.
Thank you.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of InnerVIEWS, please visit HoustonPBS.org.